Hey guys, my name's Devin. I am a professional videographer and photographer, and today I'm going to be showing you my picks for the best camera gear at different price points. So I don't know about you guys, but I know when I was getting into it, learning the camera gear, learning what equipment I needed and everything like that was a big hassle. So now that we're hopping into 2025, I wanted to kind of put together a couple different price points and go over what I think would be the best options at each of those price points. So starting off, we have the $500 price point. Now, at $500, I don't think you could do any really professional work, but if you're looking to do more so social media for your own business or social media just for yourself, just content creation in general, it's a good starting place. So with that, for the camera, I would say stick with your phone. Whether that's the newest Samsung or Google Pixel or whatever. I personally use an iPhone 15 Pro. I don't have the Pro Max. I don't, use anything crazy. But with the iPhone 15 Pro, you can get wonderful, amazing footage. And with a couple of key accessories, I think you could really take that footage to the next level. And those are also pieces of equipment that, let's say you start at the $500 price point, you can bump up to, the next camera up, and take those with you. And that's kind of how I segmented all of this. By the way, links for everything I talk about in the description. Accessories are going to be the name of the game here at the $500 price point. You want something that's going to help accentuate the quality of your videos. And so two of the biggest things you can talk about are lighting and audio. And so with that $500 price point, I want to start with audio, looking at the DJI Mic Minis. These microphones, you don't need lavs, you don't need anything else. They're not the best sounding mics on the market. What it is it's small, lightweight, and good battery life. Plus with the charging case, you could have two people mic'd up on camera, and it connects via USB-C to your phone. Can't really ask for much more than that. Now, for when you're setting up a shot, you're gonna need two additional things. One of those being a tripod, so you don't have to hold the phone. And the second one being a light. Now, as we go on, you'll see that the light comes in and out of the budget, depending on the price point you're at. Considering it's only $100 for the kit, I would consider adding it to any of the budget lists that I mentioned that is not in. But it's the Neewer HS60B. Now, it's naming schemes for lights aren't anything to remember, but what you need to know is it's a 60-watt bicolor light, and what that's going to do is you could allow it to match the color temperature. So for example, I have a window here, I've matched my light that's over here, which you can see more as I get closer, but they're matched in color temperature because it's a bicolor light. So it's going to be 60 watts, which is more than the light I'm using here, so you'll have plenty of power for whatever setup you want to use. So moving on from that $500 price point, we move into a $1,000 budget. Now, the $1,000 budget is an interesting place to be. I think the best value, if you're looking at spending $1,000 and you don't want to just stick with the phone, because if you're spending $1,000, you probably want an actual camera, I think you need to go used. And the reason I say that is I specifically would recommend the Lumix GH5. That is a camera that I had and used for about 2 years for professional video work. It helped me secure positions as the director of marketing for a real estate agency. I did a lot of things with that camera. I think some of the biggest selling points today are that it can do 4K 60 and it can do 10-bit video. And kind of taking a step back to talk about what 10-bit is versus 8-bit or anything like that. In layman's terms, it is the amount of information you can have in the colors on your video before you start running into issues. I don't know if you ever watch a YouTube video and you look at the background, and instead of the lighting being a smooth gradient, you have bands all through the background. That happens because of YouTube compression, but if you only had 8-bit color, there's a chance that you get that banding before it even gets compressed. Because what it is already compressing the video codec down to 8 bits. Right? Whereas with the GH5, you get 10 bits. Your iPhone could do 10-bit, but most other lower end and cheaper or older mirrorless or DSLR cameras can't shoot 10-bit. So I think the GH5, if you're looking at getting into a interchangeable lens camera system, is a wonderful place to start, because with that, and what I would recommend lens-wise, with the Olympus Zukio 12 to 40 f2.8, you have a 24 to 80 millimeter equivalent lens. So it's going to give you a wider shot like this, because right now this is shot at 24 millimeters, and I can touch the lens very easily from where I'm sitting. But you can also zoom in, get a nice tight shot on somebody's face or products, anything like that. It's a very versatile lens that you could use for pretty much anything. Now, also within that budget, we're going to step down on the microphone a little bit. We are going to move down to the Hollyland Lark M2. Now, it's not that much different in quality. I think the DJI sounds a little bit better. It's a little bit more compact, and I trust DJI more. I've used their products, and I can say from experience that I can trust them. I have the Mic 2s, and I have some other microphones, and I use their drones and such. I trust that their equipment and software is going to work. Hollyland, great company as well, and the Lark M2s are great. So moving on to the $1,500 price bracket, this is where things get interesting. I decided at this point, let's move into something new, something with an upgrade path, but not necessarily best of the best. And so with that, I think the best camera you can get at this price point for the idea of content creation plus getting into a camera system you can upgrade within is the Sony ZV-E10 Mark II. And I know that is a mouthful of a name, but what you need to know is it takes the sensor from Sony's APS-C video camera from the cinema line, the FX30. It takes that, puts in a smaller, cheaper body, and gives you 90% of what that camera gives you in a much smaller and cheaper package. Now, there are some limitations. There are some overheating issues. It is not the most professionally reliable camera, but for a lot of work and a lot of what people are looking to have done video-wise, it's more than capable. Now, for now, because of the budget restraints, we're going to keep it with the kit lens it comes with, the 16 to 55 Mark II. It's a f3.5 to 6.3, I believe, off the top of my head. It's not the best lens, but it's plenty sharp. It's going to look good on video, but you are going to run into issues with lights. So with that said, that's why we're bringing back that HS60B, so that you can compensate for the limits of an APS-C sensor with a higher aperture, slower lens, with compensating with that with a light. And so you get that light kit. We're going still with that small rig tripod, and we're gonna go back to the Mic Minis. I like the kit better. I've used them and I've heard how they sound. I've only ever seen the Lark M2s over YouTube and stuff like that. There's plenty of videos on them. You can go back and forth. They're pretty much interchangeable, and we will be going back and forth between those two kits of mics for pretty much the whole time. Now, you can always upgrade to a bigger mic kit. Like, I use the Anchorwork mics. I forget the exact model of this kit, but I use these a lot because they have the ability for me to plug in lapel mic, which I do have, or I could just use them like I am for this video as my microphone, and you can even see where it is. Right now it's actually just below frame. Like, here's my hand. I'm now have my hand resting on the mic. It's just right here on my shirt. I can hide it out of frame, and I like these ones because they're also pretty good looking, so if I do have to show it in a video, it's just a cute little gold guy. So moving on, we're gonna go to the $2,000 price point. Now, again, keeping with it being new, I made some selections here, but if I was gonna go used at $2,000 for my whole kit, I would probably go Canon R6 versus the camera I did choose for this, the Canon R7. And the reason why is the R6 is full frame, and you can get them for like $1,100 to $1,300 if you find the right deal. And at that price point, you are $200 to equivalent pricing as the R7. So Canon R7, you might ask why I didn't go with maybe the Canon R8. The R8 is basically the same sensor as the Canon R6 Mark II, a $2,400 camera, but there's some compromises there. And so I would stay away from the R8 unless you know it's going to work for what you are doing. If you're doing 90% photo, I think the R8's a great camera. But if we're trying to find, again, the best like mix, you could do potentially some client work, but you can also do your own personal work, I would go with the Canon R7. And the second reason why is the Canon RF mount is not open to full frame lens manufacturers yet. They've only opened up the APS-C side. So for the lens, we're actually going with the Sigma 18-50 f2.8. Now that's a lens that I had used back when I had my FX30. I tried it out, but it was super sharp, super lightweight, and super compact, which is exactly what you want when you're going with an APS-C camera. Save a little bit of that weight. In the future, if you decide to do something on a gimbal, you're gonna have a lot easier time getting that balanced. So for accessories, we're still gonna stick with that Hollyland Lark M2 mic set and the SmallRig tripod. Now, kind of a bigger jump here, we're going up to $3,000. And this is gonna be the last budget I really recommend anything for. The reason why is if you're needing recommendations for anything beyond this price point, generally it's gonna be more specific use case type stuff. I mean, I've followed a pretty general rule of thumb: camera body, 24 to 70 equivalent, and maybe lights and mic and a tripod. Like that's, if you have those things, you can do most all video work you'd ever need to do, and most all photo work you might ever do. So at the $3,000 price point, the best hybrid camera I could really recommend is the A7 IV. Now, a close runner-up would be the Lumix S5 IIX. You can get that body for about $1,800 to $2,000 on a sale, which it goes on sale quite regularly. I personally own an S5 IIX, and it's great. But there's two reasons why I'm not recommending it right now in 2025. Those two reasons being that right now Lumix is looking to release probably an S1H2 and S1R2, basically updating the S1 line of cameras. But there's also, given how quickly Lumix is working on firmware updates and things of the such, I wouldn't be surprised if by end of 2025 we're actually looking at an updated generation of the S5. I think I would hold off. As much as I loved that camera, and you would not go wrong getting an S5. But I think the A7 IV gives you a little bit more at the price point you can find them at right now. The reason I went with the A7 IV is it can do 4K 60. It has really good low light. I mean, considering I'm shooting on A7S III and the low light is not so substantially better on this versus the A7 III, and it's got the newer autofocus systems. Like, it's a great camera offering for the price. For lens, there's two different options I'd recommend. For optical quality, I would go with the Tamron 28 to 75. I personally own that lens. I loved it. It works really well for me. The only downside to it is it only goes to 28 millimeters, which for some people, especially if you're in online content creation, is just a little too tight. Now, if that's going to be a limitation for you, then I would go with the Rokinon 24 to 70 f2.8. It's a good lens. It's just a heck of a lot heavier. It's a bulky lens, and it's not optically as nice, but you get that 24 to 70. And I will say, if you pull up to a client shoot with that lens, it is a big, hefty, massive lens. It's gonna look good. Tripod, we're actually gonna swap it to a video style tripod at this point, especially considering I'm recommending that Rokinon. The Rokinon's really heavy, and so we just want something that's gonna support that. So we're gonna go with this Sirui SVT11 tripod. And then we're gonna bring in that newer HS60B light and stick with the DJI mic minis. So I hope this video has been helpful to you at least a little bit in terms of just some general recommendations. If you have questions about gear, I've owned way too much of it, so leave some comments down below and let me know. And if you are curious about maybe a system that works specifically for the type of content you do, I'd love to talk to you about it. Again, just leave a comment. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.